What's up guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to give you some tips regarding, as far as like the actual Holy Guide build that I've been doing, which if you haven't been watching the videos, basically these are the skills that I'm using. And then this is the skill delays that I'm using. Okay, that current set was set 1. And then I'm using these for the skills as far as that is concerned. Now for the prayer statue, what I recommend doing is not doing anything with crit damage combo. These are all bad. Okay, what you want is skill damage. You want 2 of these, and then you want global attack. So basically you want, like, to my memory, it's 2 global attack, 3 skill damage in terms of what you are after. Okay, ideally, right, if you can manage it, I'll show you. So, like, basically we'll just go ahead and open all these real quick. Something else you can do, by the way, just to give yourself a little bit extra, grab the bountiful harvest, and also if you're mine manually and buy the super miner inside the auto mart. You want to make sure you're grabbing construction rush from time to time in the offline warp as well. This is just no-brainer stuff. Like, you want to make sure you're buying 5 of these every day. That just, I'm just saying right out of the gate, that's part of the one part of the recipe. The other part is obviously you just need a lot of premium seeds, and or you need a lot of, and of course, you can grab from the manor shop, 5 of these high yield fertilizers every day, because I'd say 5 is a reasonable amount, but you can obviously buy more depending on how many gyms you actually have at any given time. But the main thing here is to basically use up these speed ups wisely. Obviously you're only going to have so many, so you don't want to get too crazy with it. I generally get real crazy with common fertilizer, as you can tell, but with the actual 4-hour, hour-long high-yield fertilizers, you want to be a little bit more sparing with them. But anyway, so the point is here, right? Obviously, I like to upgrade my greenhouse and my scarecrow, and then I do my lawnmower, just because while crop still does work and it is helpful from time to time, I tend to find myself not doing it as often, in part because mostly everybody in my state is my guild at this point. There aren't very many people that aren't, and I'm not one to, like, pick fights within my own alliance. But that said, so basically, like here, I can just kind of show you. Now, obviously, in my case, I'm already, past 12,000 meters, so for me, the focus is not so much depth anymore. Now it's more about resources. And so that's a really nice perk of having stuff. It's just kind of getting to dig around and focusing on getting as much possible. Now, that said, the one thing that I was trying to get at here is that once you've actually acquired your crops and stuff, then for your second rotation, and again, the trick here is obviously getting the higher double S, triple S, because the higher S tier you have, obviously the better drop, better stat, vice versa. So for here, like, oh, there we go, like, perfect. Got another skill damage, fantastic. Now we just need another global attack at S tier. That'd be awesome. Okay, there's a skill damage that's still, kind of helpful, but still not what I'm after. I'm looking for double S. Dang. Okay, so, but anyway, so that's one part of it. The other part is, obviously, if, for example, that is the statue, you're going to use this in set 2, for example. You can change over to it just like that, and then basically you'll be using that set. And personally, I feel like, in almost every way, it's such a huge bone to your advantage in the game. Like, you're going to want to basically build up a particular set of prayers, just like you do with gear for different PvE and PvP type events. Again, the basic bottom line for me is this skill damage and global attack is super, super good in terms of what you're going to gain out of it in a Holy Guide build, because typically what you're after is you're going to need skill crit and you're going to need stun, but then not long after you're going to need a lot of skill damage, and or you're going to be typically, like if you're running like a crit build, you might go heavy on crit damage and or crit rate. And alternatively, you've even got archer classes out there that go strictly for combo damage and such. One thing that I will point out, though, is like anything, the miniest, I guess one thing that I did pick up on that I found really helpful, at least in my build, was that, so like, for example, if you are to go into your relics, You know, you can obviously pick and choose which one you want to upgrade as you're upgrading it, but I typically think that if you're gonna like do anything, you probably ought to round robin upgrade these, because you're gonna get a lot of base HP and attack from doing that. And so by having a set, you can pick around different sets, you know, like, so Flame Book, for example, is super helpful for PvP, but let's say if I'm going into PvE type scenarios, I mean, I'm probably still going to use this overall. I don't think I'll change the crit rate. I mean, every once in a while, it might make more sense to get skill crit rate by 5%, depending on what I'm doing at the time, but, you know, of course, I'm still probably going to go with the cat for the magic box, and I still love Time Statue because that's just kind of how my build runs. And then here, Wild Guess, because that's part of the build that I'm using. And then for here, you might be wondering, like, well, what do I grab? Do I grab something that increases boss damage, and or do you get an immunity for boss? Do you get 10% of your health back every 5 seconds, or do you get a damage res, you know, resistance set? And it's like, you know, I don't know. Personally, I think the Beast-Eyed Book is probably not a bad choice here, because you're ultimately going to be gaining a lot more damage on bosses. You know, so like now if I've got that into set 2, I mean, really, literally, all I'd have to do now is just go jump into, like, Blazing Cave, for example. Of course, I don't have any challenges. Or you can do it through Grumpy Big Head. The main thing is you want to make sure you remember to go back into your set here and go into your gear plan and double check and make sure that you've got different gear plans and gear sets and presets. And then you want to make sure you're setting the correct set onto whatever it is that you're doing at the time, because these sets here kind of dictate what is going to get used as you're going around. So, you know, set 1's only going to have this set and vice versa. So, like, you know, if, for example, if I wanted to be using a PvE build, I might set this to adjust, and that way, you know, basically now if I'm going into a PvE set with set 1, it's going to be using my set 2 on Grumpy, and I'm going to be gaining all those bonuses. But obviously in this case, I'm using this purely for a PvE build, so what I'll do is I'll just basically go into set 2 like this. And again, a little confusing. It might be easier to, if you want to kind of keep your head straight, is call it a different thing. So like call it PvE like this, and then go into your set 1 and call it PvP. This is just to keep, whoa, hello. Just to keep your head straight, so that way you kind of have an idea of what build you're using and what sets you're using. That way you're not trying to jump over yourself trying to figure out what it is that you actually have going. So you'll have, you know, this set here thrown on top, and, you know, that's for my PvP bit. And then for PvE, I'll go in here and, you know, make the adjustment. So, you know, this is for my PvP. This is my PvP set, and then this is for my PvE set. So over PvE here, the only thing I could probably tweak outside of probably, don't really see anything in here I'd have to switch to by any means. But in gear plans, you know, of course, this is also where if, let's say, you had multiple sets of gear, you can also switch out. So like, let's say you've got a bunch of sets of gear now that you've built up over time. Like right now I'm just focusing on grabbing a full set of Aurus gear, but eventually I'll actually then go into set 2 and start making sets dedicated to certain stats. Like, you know, let's say for example right now I'm really needing stuns, so I'd, you know, probably get a full set of stun, you know, and vice versa, and then you could build up your sets that way. Plus you can also set up your souls, and so on and so on. That one, but, you know, anyway, so we'll go ahead and set this now to PvE like so, and then, you know, hit apply and confirm, and then that way whenever you're doing raids and such like that, you're always using the correct set, depending on what you're doing at the time. Anyway, that's the basic bottom line as far as battle plans and sets go. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful for you in case you're unfamiliar with it, and that kind of gives you an idea of what to do as far as the sets are concerned. But the main thing is that regardless of what class you are, whether you're like a holy guide like me, or if you're an archer or what have you, having a set for PvP and then having a set for PvE is crucial in terms of, you know, just being able to not only maximize for what you're going to be doing against other players, but also just in general whenever you're going through the actual rounds and matches. And, you know, more or less, like right now I'm strictly using a PvP set, you know, and I could just as easily swap over to, say, set 2 like so, and then that way, you know, at least while I'm sitting here hitting monsters and such, I don't have to worry about necessarily not being in that PvE set. Because now if I jump into PvP, I know that it's going to be in a PvP set and so on and so on. Just makes your life a lot easier. Needless to say, though, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.